Let me try this. See if I get this in the first take. All right. I didn't do a wrestling video today. This is not a wrestling video either. Instead, it's something that doesn't even need a whiteboard. So today I made a decision. I've been going back and forth on what I wanted to do this summer, but I've realized that my wife really wants to go to Europe, and I've never been to Europe, so we are taking a trip to Paris, Paris, France, because somebody immediately on my Facebook said Paris, Texas. I knew that joke was coming. I knew that joke was coming. But yeah, Paris, France. Never been to Europe, so looking forward to that trip. I think that's going to be a lot of fun. Yes, we're going to Paris Disney. It's different than Disneyland in California. Looks much more forested. Probably not as hot as California in August, so that's a benefit. And we'll be in Paris, so we're gonna have fun with it. We're gonna be there for around a week. We did find we're using Air France, so we're gonna take the nonstop. There's a nonstop between Vancouver and Paris. And I was like, sounds good. So that way we're still in the air for like 9.5 hours, but it's a heck of a lot better than 15 hours or 4 hour layover in Seattle or so. Yeah, I think that'll be good. Um, so that's coming up in August. We got the meetup started again on the weekend. There's something kind of funny. I see this every now and then on the hockey channel where people will say, you know, this guy's got all these subscribers, but he's really just a fan of the game, isn't he? Yeah, I've never claimed to be more than a fan of the game. I do think that I'm talking about hockey here, I think people try to overcomplicate it. There's always the fancy speak, which is like, well, if you really understood the game, then you'd understand the intricacies about why this player did this. And did you notice he did an out turn instead of an in turn? And it's like, come on, nobody cares. Like, just keep it simple, right? And so in my videos, I always keep it simple. And yeah, I was just happy that during the street hockey meetup we had on the weekend that I didn't end up injured. Almost did. I took a ball off the foot, which hurt, and I thought I was bleeding at the time, but thankfully I wasn't. A couple of pink toes is all I got to show for that. And I took a ball to the hand, but because I was wearing gloves, which people always, oh, don't wear, you don't need gloves. It's street hockey. We're wearing gloves. Hey, wearing gloves. Yeah, it worked. Worked out pretty well. So I'll be doing that probably every other week. So we'll probably have another one next weekend, not this weekend. So this weekend I might have a day to hang out with the wife, which is kind of nice, and maybe throw some more content on here. I will throw out there for wrestling fans this. I was not surprised that Stephanie Vaquer lost the title because clearly she's going to the main roster, but I was kind of surprised it went to JC Jane. And the rumor that now Jordan Grace is going to be up on the main roster too kind of surprised me because it seemed like Jordan Grace would be probably the next one to have that title. But basically, they've gutted the NXT women's roster over the last couple of months. They've just taken all the big stars right out of there, gone. So now you got to make new stars, which NXT is pretty good at, anyways. But yeah, the best women's division, and so you move them up to the main roster, and you hope that the main roster fans get that. I did watch a little bit of AEW tonight. I have a hard time really caring. The one point where I turned it on, it was the Anna Jay street fight match against Penelope Ford there, with Megan Bayne and Harley Cameron at ringside. I watched a few minutes of it. It was clumsy, lack of a better term. There's still, and this is why when I watch AEW, I'm left watching their women's roster a lot of the time saying, if some of these women went to WWE, they'd probably get better at their craft, and they'd also be bigger stars. But that's just my opinion. So yeah, so we'll be doing the Paris trip in August. First time I've done that ever. So that'll be the longest I've ever been on a plane too. When I was a little kid, I remember flying. I do remember being 3 years old and being on a plane, coming out here. Um, we came out from Regina, so I don't know how long that flight would have been, but not 9 hours. I also took a train trip out to BC from Saskatchewan, and that was when there were actual train stations everywhere, and you could just get off wherever. An old time that went away when I was still a young kid, so I don't expect most people watching this to even know that was the thing. But yeah, you'd hop on a train and you just every town it'd slow down and stop, and you could just go do your thing. Um, and it was a relatively cheap way to travel as well. So it's kind of sad that now it's a very expensive way to travel, and there's very few opportunities. I'd actually looked at that. That was one thing I looked at was the idea of taking a train trip at least partway across the country, maybe going up to Jasper or something. But just the price and everything, I was like, nah, I don't think so. So maybe someday, but at this point, no. Um, I know Yvonne wants to do a cruise at some point too, but I refer to them as death boats. Um, I've heard plague barges as well. I've just heard too many stories about one person at sea getting sick, and then the whole thing goes into quarantine. Or everybody gets sick because the food's bad, or these kinds of horror stories, or the boat lights on fire. And so now it's a death barge that's on fire in the middle of the ocean. Cool. So, yeah, I'm not a big fan. Not a big fan of that. But I wanted to just talk to everybody tonight and just do a video where I'm just saying hey. And I also wanted to throw out there too that like the bot problem on YouTube has really become a major issue. What the bots used to do, so they have the bots with the sexy girls or whatever, however you want to look at it, and they used to just take you to a playlist, and then that playlist had a bunch of ads in it, so that that ad revenue would be generated towards an account. But yeah, now they do generally send you to a phishing website, and so I block them immediately. The funny thing is that they always come up right when a video goes live. So I make sure that I block them right away, but there's always somebody in the comment, wow, the bots are bad tonight. For the first 5 minutes of videos live, yes. And I go in and I delete all of them. So they're gone, and I block all the accounts, and then there's brand new ones 2 hours later. So I kind of take it as a compliment that my channel's big enough that there's all these bots that just show up with the same stupid comments all the time. I need to figure out what other words I can filter. The filters do work very well when it comes to the bots. There are certain words that are filtered that I know only the bots use, and so there's a couple of bots that are like there's some bots that are all in French. So speaking of which, I'm gonna have to probably remember some of that French that I learned in school many years ago. But Yvonne's been doing an online course where every day she does her French, which was the first indication I had that either we had to go to Montreal or we had to go to Paris. I mean, Ottawa would work too. It's bilingual in Ottawa as well, but I can't very well have her, working on refreshing all of her French and then go, hey, let's go to Edmonton. No. The one thing with Paris is I don't know that I would do a meetup while I'm in Paris. I don't know how many people would show up to a meetup in Paris. I've thought about taking the train from Paris to London, but since we're not going to have that many free days, that would seem to be kind of a choice being made with one of our free days. So I'm not sure. I'll have to think that through and figure that out. But it is going to be a fun summer. We're traveling later in the summer than we normally do, which has already got me thinking about what videos I'm going to be making during that time, and how that's going to affect everything, because my brain never rests. Never rests. But yeah, so I don't take it as an insult when people are like, he just comes across as a fan. I hope so. I'm a fan of the game. I'm a fan of wrestling. I've been a fan of wrestling for many years, and I think turning on a webcam and being ready to talk about something, it's not like if I'm going to make a wrestling video that all of a sudden, Ted DiBiase's going to be at the door going, do you know how to wrestle, son? And I'll be like, no. And he'll be like, well, you turn that webcam off, or I'm gonna turn it off for you. It's such a weird argument. It's so bizarre, um, because we apply that standard to sports, but we don't apply that standard to anything else. We just don't. It is such an odd thing for people to throw out there. You just really a fan. Yeah, I'm a movie fan too. I talk about movies. I haven't made movies. I've written novels, but I mean that doesn't mean that I'm an expert. It just means I like writing novels. I will say too, I had a really good idea for a novel 2 weeks ago, and it's still rattling around in my brain, and my wife's terrified of it because I thought of a new Into the Void book, and I was like, oh no, oh, because once that thought's in my brain, it has to go somewhere. So at some point in time, either I will sit down and figure out a way to write that out, or I don't know. Maybe I'll set something up on a whiteboard and just tell people. I don't want to give my ideas away, but it's one of those things where it'll sit in the back of my mind. When I write novels too, I know I write different than other authors. I don't sit down and do an outline. In fact, I don't even know what's going to happen next. The book reveals itself to me as I'm writing it. Many times where over the years I've been writing a book and I've had a character that's based on a friend of mine, maybe from school, maybe from work, maybe a family member, and I might have to pull them aside and go, yeah, so I was writing a scene last night and you died. They're like, what do you mean I died? And I'm like, well, I was writing it and your character died. How? And then I try to break it to them that, they died heroically, or, well, it advanced this part of the storyline. And people are usually not very understanding of that. And when I tell them, well, I didn't plan it, it just happened, they don't believe me. So, but yeah, there have been times where, especially if it's a big battle scene in my science fiction, where I'm writing and writing and writing, and then I'm like, oh, shoot, that person's dead. And I will not go back and fix it. I will not go back and change it. Fix it's the wrong word. I will not go back and change it. Because my brain went, okay, here's this. And then I'm like, oh my gosh, what just happened? Oh. And so to me as an author, I feel like if I feel that way, hopefully some of the readers feel that way too. Obviously not all of them, but hopefully there's some that go, wow, that kind of came out of nowhere. Because to me, the guy writing it, it kind of came out of nowhere. So that's part of how I write it. I'd also say too, for anybody who's considering starting a YouTube channel, because I do get these questions. I've talked about this on this channel before, but I'll mention it here again. Always approach it as a hobby to begin with. Always approach it as a hobby, just something you're doing for fun, videos you're sharing with friends and family. And if it grows beyond that, great. And if it doesn't, well, you've still got things you're sharing with friends and family. And you've kind of immortalized yourself on the internet a little bit. So there you go. So that'll be the advice I would give to anybody who's starting out, and the idea of being, independently wealthy and everything. I mean, I've been doing this for 9 years. I've been doing this as my only job for over 7. I don't own my own house. We rent our house, so I've never had enough money where I could actually look at putting a down payment on a house. There's never been a time. Yvonne and I talk about it here and there, but it's just there's never been a time where I've been able to do that. So yeah, and as you can tell, I'm at least past the age of 30 by a lot. But and so that's in the back of my mind too. Of hey, if I got a really long term mortgage, basically that's it. That's my place. So it's an ongoing thing in my brain. But yeah, so things are going well. It was hot today here, hot by our standards. It's supposed to cool down a lot tomorrow, so hopefully, if it's hot where you've been, hopefully it's going to cool down as well. Um, Summer's on the way, and I was reading that the forecast for this summer is that it's going to be a hot one. So we have not had a long hot summer for a while, and since we're traveling late in the summer, I'm not surprised that it's going to be pretty hot and miserable. But the one thing that does is it means we stay in the house a lot. It means that I can have meetups as long as I have them late enough in the day. So I will be able to play a lot of street hockey this summer. And it usually means a lot of live streams because we're kind of trapped in the house because it's really hot outside. And so we usually do live streams. So I'll be doing live streams on this channel, live streams on the main channel as well. I did appreciate that when I was watching Battleground, there were people who watched along with me, and we had a nice little live stream there. So looking forward to doing that again. And I'll give a little more warning the next time I'm going to do it. It was kind of an experiment, like I wonder how this will do, and it went all right. So don't be surprised when I try it again. But thank you guys so much for all your support. It's greatly appreciated. I'm very happy with the way this channel's been going. It is pretty close to 31,000 subscribers, which for a channel that there have been times where I might not upload a video for a week, week and a half, and it does tend to change topics in terms of what videos are about on this channel. I'm appreciative of people who stick around because It is just, I'm very happy about the people that stick around. So thank you to those that have. And hey, I got through a video without a whiteboard. I did it. I used to do videos without whiteboards in the beginning, but I would forget things. And then I'd realize when the video was done, well, crap, I didn't mention at all that topic that I meant to, and I got sidetracked and tangent, and there you go. So the whiteboard keeps me on topic. Thank you guys so much for all your support as always. If you haven't already hit like and subscribe, please do. But your support's greatly appreciated, and I will talk to you again soon.